Hello and welcome to this product update of the WebChat dialog provider. Today I'll be demonstrating the upcoming WebChat 2.1 features. The first feature I would like to demonstrate is the configuration page. At the moment the WebChat package is delivered with a HTML page with in there a config object pre-filled in, and the advanced web developers of the customer could build their own config object using the documentation that is described on the go live. So for example, they can build a template, change the styling, change the teaser settings, but also set the username, display name based on any JavaScript that we load in. For our more non-technical customers, we've introduced a config page. So this page also navigates as a kind of manual where you could learn more stuff about the configuration. It has a pre-filled in config object, which you can easily copy, but also a settings editor where you could test and change your settings before you make them live. So for example, let's apply a theme. I'm enabling the light theme. I'm selecting a color that fits the customer branding. And if you apply the changes, you will see that the website icon and the theming has been updated automatically and is added to the config. And then the web developer could just copy the code and implement it on the website. As you can see, if you remove it, it's also been removed from the config file. The next feature is the multiple UCCs. So at the moment, for each UCC, you need to have your own WebChat dialog provider. And if you have multiple UCCs, you need to install them multiple times, which was resource inefficient. And to improve this and to be more in line with our other dialog providers, we've added a UCC variable. We could have a force UCC variable in the config object. That's the default, that will always be used. But a more advanced web developer could have also done this via a script. And the advantage of using a script is that you could have content-based routing. What this could mean in practice is that based on any object you could retrieve via JavaScript, that a routing rule could be applied. For example, if I'm on the page of HR, then I could detect which page I'm viewing, which user I am, and then based on that feedback I could set my own UCC. So for example, route to the UCC of HR. For example, you could also retrieve information what's in your shopping cart or how long you've been watching the page, and based on that you could redirect the customer to another UCC. In that UCC, we still have the plugin flow settings. So based on the customer URI or on the content of the first message, we could do additional routing rules. So for example, which skill. Next up, we have the persistent chat feature. By default, the session is stored in the session storage, which means as long as I'm on this tab on my browser, the session will restore, so I can browse the web page. I could even leave the website and go back, and the session will be restored. But as soon as I close my browser, the session is gone. To improve this, we've added the option for local storage, which means that they're stored locally in the cache. So as long as you have your cache active, sessions will be restored. In practice, this means that a customer could type a message. The web agent has been offered the call, can accept it. The web agent can see that the customer is online and can type something back. And you can see that the customer is currently connected. As soon as the customer disconnects the page, the web agent user will see that the customer is no longer connected to the session and how long the last connection was. This gives the option to choose to send an email, maybe give a call, or write a log ticket, and then close the session. But if the customer returns, the web agent will see that the customer is back again, and the customer can restore the session. Because we're going to keep the sessions alive in local storage, we've also offered the option for a customer to close the session client side. For example, when they're sufficiently helped, when the question is resolved, they can choose to clear this conversation and start another one. It can be done with the close option. The session will be ended and the web agent will straight away see the call is disconnected. I can wrap up, but first do a classification. If then the customer wants a new message, they can start a new session, this will be offered as a new item and a new conversation can be continued. We've also added the presence information of a UCC to the web chat. So if this UCC is configured, then we can retrieve additional information. If the UCC is available, so it's open for business hours, not in a holiday, and forced closed is turned off. Away, the UCC is outside business hours, during a holiday, or forced closed is turned on. Or offline, that means that the system has been put offline. To demonstrate this, I'm going to change the business hours, but additional, you could choose in your setting files what kind of message you want to play. So when we're during business hours and available, how can we help? If we're away, we could choose another message, even choose a different state. The options you have is enabled, full experience. Don't allow to open the chat window, so just the button and the tease message. Chat interaction disabled. The customer is able to open the whole window, but not initiate a session. You could still prompt the customer, for example, in the future with an adaptive card, or completely hide the web chat, which makes sense if you're offline. So for now, I'm going to close my UCC. The SharePoint will be updated, and in a few seconds, you'll see that my chat is away, and you have a different tease message. Finally, I'm going to shut down the whole UCC. This will result in an offline. And as you can see, the website is offline, and the customer is informed in a right way. It's fully up to the customer how they want to utilize this. So for an internet page, it will make a lot of sense to show the offline status, but in the case of a public website, the hide website state would make a lot more sense. And now for our final feature, we'll be introducing adaptive card compatibility with the WebChat 2.1. Adaptive Cards is a product of Microsoft where you could easily create your own cards. A card could be used as a form, could be a question form, a contact form, could also be used for sharing information with the customer. But what you can really easily do is form it, put a title, some text, ask some questions about the customer. For example, we could use this field to detect what's the customer name, what's the customer email address, and define the subject of the question. And this subject could then be used for our plugin flow settings, where you could route the customer to a different department based on the question they're selecting, or even maybe their name or their email address if you do a single point of contact. This card, after you're done designing, you can just copy the payload. You can paste it on SharePoint. And in there, you could also make a response. So you could personalize the response that the customer is getting after they submitted it. And you could reuse certain values that the customer shared to the agent. So now let's see how this looks in practice. I have a web chat. In the web chat, I've configured that during business hours, I'm having a question form, and outside business hours, I have a contact form. When I open the session, you will see that the question form I've just created in Adaptive Cards is available in the web chat. The customer could type their name, their email address, and the subject. And keep in mind that Adaptive Cards provide validation on the input. So if you want to make sure that they're using an email address, you could provide a regex which will control that before they allow submitting the data. After selecting it, I'm going to submit it under support. My name will be reused in the customer feedback for personal branding. In the web agent, you will see that the agent can see straight away from which sender this comes from. You can take it from the queue, you can accept it. On the top, you will see the subject. You will see the CRM information automatically being loaded because of the customer URI that was provided. And the agent can also see the same output the customer has received. So what you see is what you get, that both the agent and the customer are looking at the same thing. So finally, let's show what you could do out of business hours. So I'm changing my business hours. My web chat is now still open, but after the update, it will be closed. There we go. If you now open the card, you will see there's a contact form. It's a different card. So this information, besides being submitted to the web agent, could also be submitted to a target URI, for example, Dialog Studio or Microsoft Power Automate, which enables you to reuse these extra data to trigger a third-party integration, where we'll be using it as an input for our campaign dialer, and the campaign dialer will start hunting the next available agent during business hours. So this way you can integrate existing Anywhere functionality in combination with the web chat. Thank you for watching this product update of WebChat 2.1 and hope to receive feedback from you soon. Thank you for watching.